Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. We've got good, bad, and crazy martinis for you as usual. And it's also Long Soundbite Monday. Both are good and bad martinis. Today we start with the good. And Jim, you have been saying for weeks now, as Democrats try to put up shiny objects to distract voters in red-leaning states away from Obamacare, that they're just going to have a hard time making the case that they really want to change Obamacare because they never get specific on what they would actually change. Case in point, classic case, Mark Pryor in Arkansas on KARK TV over the weekend. Here's the extended clip from that interview.
The truth is this law is far from perfect. There's a lot of work we need to do on the law to try to improve it, make it better, a lot of rough edges. So I've always kind of been first in line to help that.
7.1 million people, he said, have signed up, but 6 million have lost their health care and had to sign up. We got about 1 million of those folks that were uninsured. Of the 7.1 million,
I don't know if I would go with the 6 million figure that they lost their health insurance. I mean, again, some of these stats are very debatable.
A lot of our premiums have really shot up. Those of us, had to pay these premiums. If you knowing now what you know now, would you have voted for this back then?
I would have. Of course, I would want to see some changes back then. But I think on something like this, it's big, it's complicated, it's difficult. If you get 80% of this right, you've really done something. We probably did get 80% of it right. We need to go back and really work on that other 20% and get it going in the right direction. But, my point with my Republican friends is this. If you got something better, I'll vote for it. I mean, give me something better.
So, Jim, a lot of different ways you could go on this one, from him trusting the administration's numbers but not those of the insurance companies, the fact that he doesn't get specific on changes, and all sorts of other things. Kudos to the interview for staying on him about it, but Mark Pryor is tap dancing, and I'm not sure he's got enough energy in his feet to make it to November.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the type of answer that's going to sell well in Arkansas. I think you put most of the critiques front and center there. I guess the only... I'll give a few molecules of a defense of Pryor that I don't know that there's another option other than this blind optimism and denial and insistence that everything's now coming up roses. There's not a better move here, because if he says, yeah, actually I shouldn't have voted for Obamacare, we'd applaud it, we'd be glad, and we'd be, pointing to him and saying to every other Democrat, why can't you be like that? But I don't think it would necessarily save him or the seat. Tom Cotton would be able to say, hey, why don't you vote for the guy who can get it right the first time? Was it One Republic or some song that has the music of the song, It's Too Late to Apologize? When a politician makes an unpopular decision, to make a reversal and to say, oh yeah, this thing that I've been running on for the past 5 years totally was a mistake, I shouldn't have done it, sorry, never mind. That's not going to play particularly better at either. I suppose he's kind of backed into this corner. I don't think it's going to save him anymore. And I think Tom Cotton's got a very, target-rich environment there, because, as you said, he's got the trusting the Obama administration's figures, all the bad news is disputed. All the good news has to be taken at first value. If I'd had a chance, I'd vote for the good parts, but not for the bad parts, basically.
I also enjoyed the fact that he said, this was really big and really complicated. And so, there's problem number one, Senator. This whole comprehensive approach hasn't really worked all that well.
No Shinola, Senator. Basically, yes, this is why we don't like one-size-fits-all giant comprehensive solutions and things like that. And also, this is a point that we on the Republican side or on the right side have been making for a really long time. There's a Republican study group proposal. There's a Tom Price proposal. Tom Coburn's got his own proposal. Bobby Jindal just unveiled his own. There are plenty of other proposals. But basically if they put on a blindfold and Democrats say, oh, there's no other options, what else are you going to do? Hey, it's this crap sandwich or nothing else. And, unsurprisingly, Republicans say, there are plenty. It'll be interesting to see just how long they can carry this "there are no alternatives" argument into November.
Hopefully that. All right, on to Martini number two. And an issue for Republicans. We've seen it in the Senate. We're seeing it in the House as it plays out, and we'll likely see it play out on the 2016 presidential campaign trail, is what to do about immigration policy. Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida, very passionate on this issue in a way that a lot of border security first people are not excited about. Governor Bush did an interview with Shannon Bream on the Fox News channel, and he did have some good ideas I think most conservatives would agree on, like following up right away when people's visas expire. He says that's about 40% of the illegals in this country. They just overstay their visas, and they were here legally in the first place. But then he talked about the other people who come, the other 60%. Here's what he said.
Someone who comes to our country because they couldn't come legally, they come to our country because their families, a dad who loved their children was worried that their children didn't have food on the table. And they wanted to make sure their family was intact. And they crossed the border because they had no other means to work, to be able to provide for their family. Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of it's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family. I honestly think that is a different kind of crime that there should be a price paid, but it shouldn't rile people up that people are actually coming to this country to provide for their families.
Jim, I think there's plenty of people who sympathize with the plight of people in Mexico and other countries who yearn for a better life, but there is a legal immigration system, and this is going to put him in a very interesting spot in the 2016 field if, in fact, he runs. I
can't emphasize enough how much I really want to like Jeb Bush. I think he's got a very solid record as governor. He's really been a leader on school. So, it's not like he's Arlen Specter or Charlie Crist or this down-the-line squish. But when he says stuff like this, it really reminded me of Rick Perry's comment during the 2012 campaign. It was in 2011. He was talking about a state-level version of kind of like the DREAM Act of in-state tuition for children of illegal immigrants. And he said, boy, if you don't believe in, educating people who came here through no fault of their own, you just don't have a heart. And every, rock-ribbed conservative who up until that point was really loving Rick Perry just wanted to, shake him by his lapels and say, what the hell is wrong with you? Because even if you believe that that's a good policy, or even if you believe, as I do, you don't necessarily need to deport every last illegal immigrant in this country. You don't need to help the media and the Democrats with their narrative that people who want to, restrict illegal immigration and want to deport people who they're not doing something out of callousness or selfishness or xenophobia or greed or racism or any of that. And while I guess listening to Jeb Bush's comments, where does compassion bleed into naivete? Because, there are some people who come here because there are just no serious economic prospects in Mexico, and they know they're going to be living hand to mouth for the rest of their lives, and they think they can have a better life here. Yeah, we do sympathize with that. But some of them don't. Some of them come here and join gangs. Some of them get involved in the drug trade. Obviously, everybody who's involved in people smuggling are not good people. They're not the modern-day Ellis Island types. They're looking to exploit people. And some of the employers of illegal immigrants are exploiting these people. So this whole, romanticized rose-colored glasses vision of this whole process is frustrating. In both the Morning Jolt, and I put it up on Campaign Spot, strangely enough, you can't find a lot of good surveys of illegal immigrants. And I guess it's, you ask somebody, are you illegal? People are inclined to say no and all that stuff. But somebody finally did a study and actually got a chance to talk to about 1,000 of them and asked them, serious questions about why did you come to this country? Did you know the risks? Did you know you're breaking the law? All that kind of stuff. Besides the obvious economic factors, one of the non-economic factors was that a significant chunk of these immigrants, that are mostly from Mexico, believed that the United States didn't have the moral or legal authority to keep them out of the country. That basically they had a right to come here and seek work, and that the U.S. government was unjust or just didn't have sufficient moral or legal authority in their minds to enforce this law. This was an unjust law keeping them out. That's not an act of love, Greg. That's not an act of compassion and, I'm just thinking of the children. That's a matter of, what, U.S. government, I don't respect your laws. I don't recognize your laws. When we talk about these people wanting a better life, that's not living the American dream. That's not saying, I really want to be an American and that's great. That's hey, you're a bunch of nonsense, U.S. government, and I can do whatever the heck I want because you're, I don't even want to speculate on the reasoning there. But it's very frustrating that Jeb Bush, and again, policy-wise, I have a feeling I don't think he and I would come out that differently. But I really feel like the grassroots that are mad as heck about illegal immigration has good reason to be mad as heck about illegal immigration. People have been promising to enforce our laws and secure the border for years and years and years, and it seems like very little ever gets done on this front. We just have this point in which you're not only is their concern dismissed, they often get demonized for it. And I just don't understand why Jeb Bush would say anything that would kind of put him in that category.
Yeah, that's not going to help him or the debate, probably, although he did encourage toning down some of the pejoratives in the debate, which is probably a good thing. As far as his presidential bid, the best thing for Jeb Bush, which would also probably be the worst thing for the country, would be that the issue is off the table because the House and Senate agreed on something, which probably won't happen. But if this is a major issue come 2015, early 2016, that's pretty much going to be a poison pill for his campaign.
Well, the only thing I would also kind of add to that, Greg, is that let's just, I don't think anything will pass really as long as Obama's president. But even if it did, the passage of Obamacare did not end the issue of Obamacare.
Right.
You would have people running against this deal. The issues don't go away just because a law passes. People, the passions will still be there, and people will be mad as heck about it if something does pass.
Actually, that's a very good point. All right, on to the crazy martini now. And Jim, this comes to us from the Chicago Sun-Times. Former U.S. Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. has been moved from a federal prison in North Carolina to a minimum security prison camp in Montgomery, Alabama, after clashing with prison officials and being placed in solitary confinement. The 49-year-old former Chicago congressman had been advising other inmates in North Carolina about their rights in prison, according to the source, who said a guard took exception to that. As a result, the longtime South Side politician was placed in solitary confinement for 4 or 5 days more than a month ago. A hearing was held. Jackson was cleared of any wrongdoing and asked to be transferred to another prison. We have not heard anything from the prison here, Jim, but Jackson's brother Jonathan said he's very happy his brother's been moved. His sister said that her brother entered prison wanting to make a contribution and interact well and wanting to be of service to people while serving time.
You'd love to know. So that was, is he advising, convicted serial killers of their rights?
I don't know.
The robbed a liquor store type. You kind of wonder about that. I don't know if that's a sign that his penance is proceeding apace or whether he's like, you want to serve the public. He picked a very interesting choice of who he decided to start serving, huh? The convicted guy in the next cell who, maybe it's some, guy who's we genuinely would sympathize. But if he's, like Sons of Anarchy, some biker gang member in the next cell, do you know you have some legal rights here? You have a right to complain for hotter food or something like that. So an odd story, not quite. The path to redemption is a rocky one, and it's a minimum security facility. I hope he doesn't suddenly walk out of there one day. Let's see how his story turns out in the months and years to come.
Well, given all the other potential threats facing prisoners, having Jesse Jackson Jr. as your cellmate and talking your ear off, there could be worse things that happen, but that would get old pretty quick, I think.
Prison is not supposed to be a happy place. It's supposed to be a place where you are punished for the crimes you've committed. On the other hand, having a congressman in your cell block might put everyone on best behavior, knowing that this would get additional scrutiny and, heaven forbid something happens to a congressman in prison. So hopefully Jesse Jackson Jr. is learning his lesson and everything turns out all of this. But there's a good chance it won't, huh, Greg?
It's not off to a great start anyway. He's already on to a second prison. All right, Jim, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. And be sure to join us on Tuesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.